real-time transactions are increasing enormously across the world. When we call for an Uber ride, we expect it to be there within minutes and know who the driver is within seconds.
To make real-time services work, you need real-time transactions.
Because a lot of these databases were invented when hardware principles were very, very different. If you think about the chip in the 80s and 90s, it's very different from the power of the chip today.
All of those existing companies become legacy infrastructure. They either need to upgrade and save a ton of money on their existing infrastructure, or new competitors can use tools like TigerBeetle to undercut their costs and massively outperform them.
So what TigerBeetle has done is figured out a way to design a solution that's purpose-built for real-time transactions and launch products faster while still ensuring that your costs don't skyrocket. Hi everyone. As you all know, I recently made the announcement that I've joined the team at TigerBeetle full-time. As part of joining the company, I am riffing on evolving my authentic talk track using my words of why I'm so excited about TigerBeetle. So in this video, I brainstorm and riff with my co-host of Decoding Sales, Alex Allain, on how to actually convey the magic and power of TigerBeetle. I hope you enjoy this. This is a raw look as to how we go back and forth. I try the pitch something like 7 or 8 times, and Alex Allain, as an engineer, also tries his hand at the pitch too with his own flavor. So again, hope you enjoy this. If you like it, put that in the comments and let me know, and subscribe to continue following my journey as Chief Customer Officer at TigerBeetle as I learn, grow, and hopefully make an impact in the role.
Part of what we've talked about in the past for like early stage startups that is like the importance of like identifying some kind of like technology like trend, some like new thing that is changing the way the businesses work. And like an early stage sales leader, like you got to actually understand it. So part of me is like, maybe we should talk just a little bit about that so people know enough, have enough like it's kind of meaningful, right? In your decision matrix. Like if you couldn't answer this question, then probably I'm assuming you would have not said yes to this offer. So maybe you could just talk a little bit about how you thought about that particular aspect of this in relation to other aspects, and maybe through that it'll come through, like you can share a little bit about it so people have the right context.
Of course. Yeah, I appreciate you asking that. So I think the trend is that real-time transactions are only increasing, right? If you think about, and it's not, when you think about transactions, you automatically think about financial transactions. And I mentioned TigerBeetle as a financial transactions database, but a lot of workflows have the same shape as a debit credit transfer. So let me give you an example. Solar now has allowed kind of energy billing to happen in like 15 to 30 minute increments, whereas we're used to actually paying a monthly bill, right? But that has changed drastically, right? And you have like surge pricing during certain hours. So that's like on the energy side of things. If you think about Uber, right? Like when you're calling an Uber car, there is an amount of like real-time transactions that is happening between consumers and a finite set of cars that are on the docket, right? And then you think about like financial transactions, like the stock market is a key example of this, where there's hundreds of millions of trades happening across the world. But the interesting thing about that is NVIDIA commands like 90% of the trades within the stock market. So when there's all these like people trying to trade stocks, the NVIDIA row in a stock market environment is constantly locked because so many people are trying to hit it at the same time, right? So you have this like combination of high volume of real-time transactions increasing. It's only going to continue. And then you have like a finite set of rows within a database that are constantly hit, these like hot accounts. And so there's this perfect kind of storm of pain happening for the engineers, the folks who are maintaining the infrastructure of trying to actually shuttle these transactions around, right? So that's the trend. The problem is that if you think about Postgres, right? So when Postgres was invented first, it's like
pretty old, right?
Enterprise database, right? And like most databases today, general purpose databases are SQL based, right? And yeah, you're right, it's pretty old. So Postgres is a 39-year-old technology. It was invented the year I was born, 1986. And if you think about hardware back when Postgres was invented, is very different from hardware today. You're talking, like chip sizes were a lot bigger, it was a lot slower. Folks didn't believe that things could get transacted as quickly as they could through like these tiny chips now, right? And so the design principles of the database were created based off of concepts that Postgres and SQL codified, right? And so what does that mean? It means, now going back to the real-time transaction story, and sorry this is becoming long, I might cut out and edit some of this, but hopefully you're still following me. Like to do a single credit debit transaction in something like the stock market or like solar energy billing or even like a gaming platform where you have like transactions going on through like the gaming economy, it takes like 2 to 10 SQL queries to complete a single transaction, right? Because the app has to call out to the database and say, okay, does Alex have enough funds? Yada, yada, yada. And then it has to call back and say, okay, is Peter ready to receive the funds? There's all these like SQL queries that happen. Now, what Joran and the team has created is a way to actually batch 8,000 transfers into a single CPU loop versus having to go back and forth 2 to 10 times or even 20 times.
Do you mean a single SQL query or a single transaction? CPU loop doesn't make sense. That's not a thing.
Yeah, so a single like query. Yeah, exactly. Like where you're able to batch 8,000 of these into a single CPU, that's what they say actually, CPU loop, like a single trip around from like the app to the database.
Single round trip to the database? Yeah, okay.
Exactly, right? And so because chips now are highly performant where you can actually do this, right? You can actually go from a world where maybe at most you could have like thousands of transactions per second with your application. Now you can design for a world where you can confidently, safely do 1 million transactions per second, right? And so that's what really drew me in. And I think that kind of trend means that a lot of these fintech companies, banks, and any company that has this shape of real-time transaction is rooted right now in legacy technology in terms of the database layer. And so I'm excited to introduce the TigerBeetle kind of technical concepts, as well as also kind of how we actually go to market, obviously, which is why I'm joining. But anyways, I'll stop there.
Yeah. Do you think you could do that again and do it in like 3 sentences?
The trend that I'm excited about with TigerBeetle is that real-time transactions across the world and across different types of businesses is increasing. Not only like financial transactions, if you think about like consumer wallets, we now like expect funds to show up in our account instantly, but also with other use cases. For example, with solar energy, now you expect to be charged on like 15 to 30 minute increments versus monthly. So if you think about the sheer volume of transactions happening across businesses, it's only increasing. The problem is that a lot of those transactions are powered by and are facilitated by databases that are very, very old. A lot of these are general purpose SQL-based databases that just are not efficient, considering the hardware improvements that have happened right from the 80s up until now. And so TigerBeetle is allowing companies to take advantage of those hardware improvements and has designed OLTP financial transactions database that is more purpose built to actually safely and quickly allow for these financial transactions to happen to the tune of like 1 million transactions per second versus like thousands if you were to leverage old school databases. So that's really kind of what the trend is that I'm excited about.
Ooh, can I try doing it in 3 sentences?
Sure. Yeah.
I just want to see if I can do this.
Yeah.
So
well, how many sentences was that? Was that like
I
6?
stopped counting after like
Yeah, okay.
So we live in a world where real-time transactions are increasing massively because it makes the economy like far more efficient and allows you to save money, for example, on electric costs if you're billed hourly. The problem is all the databases that we use to do this weren't designed for this kind of like real-time processing. And in particular, many of these transactions require making edits to a central resource. For example, in the stock market, a lot of trades are on NVIDIA, like 90%, which means that particular individual row needs an enormous number of edits every second. Databases can do thousands. TigerBeetle can do millions, which means that you can scale these real-time transactions by an enormous factor, which allows many more people to take advantage of them and save enormous cost at the same time.
That's pretty good. Yeah. Still like 7 or 8 sentences, I would
I
say.
had a lot of commas and semicolons,
Yeah.
Peter. I promise you,
Yeah.
if I wrote that out, it would be 3 sentences.
That was good. That was really good, though, actually. I think the combination of the two would be good. Do you want me to try it again?
Okay, well, yeah. Why don't you do like your version, like another version? How would you talk about it based on how I talked about it?
I'm going to try and brutally prioritize it this time. So I
Yeah,
might like leave out a lot of things,
I think
actually.
that's
And
actually the right move.
I might not like it, but let
Yeah.
me give it a shot, right? So the trend is that real-time transactions are increasing enormously across the world. Right? People expect funds to show up immediately. When we call for an Uber ride, we expect it to be there within minutes and know who the driver is within seconds. The problem is the databases powering these real-time transactions can't keep up. And so what TigerBeetle is doing is it's using hardware concepts of today to help you transact at a scale of millions of transactions per second, whereas old school databases can help you do thousands a second.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. The only thing I would like add to that,
Yeah.
actually, I would probably talk about the thousands when I talk about the problem, and I say,
Yeah. That's a good part. Instead of it being like a footnote after.
yeah, I think that like thousands to millions is like where you're getting like a lot of the like, oh, there's something there. If you're like right now, like databases, the average database can only do thousands of these transactions a second, which means it's really hard and bespoke and challenging to build these systems and expend, something like that. That was way too many
Yeah.
words, but like I think there's something there,
Totally. I like
and
that.
this is maybe more of an investor pitch than a customer pitch at this point, but you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like that's
Sure. Yeah. But it's still, I think investor pitch is more closer to like broadly applicable
yeah, exactly.
than like maybe
our,
customer.
our listeners are not going to be like,
Yeah, they're not
you
all going
know,
to be customers or understand like the true shape of the problem.
exactly,
Right.
exactly. Like,
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Do you want me to try it one more time?
yeah, well, sure, why not?
The shape of the problem is real-time transactions are increasing enormously across multiple types of businesses. If you think about the stock market, there's more trades happening than ever, and accounts like Nvidia account for 90% of the trade. So there's a lot of contention and issues with trying to like actually scalably offer a seamless experience there. And then when you think about solar energy, we're now used to being charged on 15 to 30-minute increments versus monthly. The problem is that the databases underlying these real-time transactions can only keep up to the tune of thousands of transactions per second, even if you were to horizontally scale your databases. And what TigerBeetle has found is that that's just unacceptable, especially considering how much the hardware has improved today. And so they've actually developed a purpose-built financial transactions database that can process millions of transactions per second to help businesses run 1,000 times faster.
I think your previous version was better. That one got a little bit like flabby.
A little wordy, right? I
Yeah.
think the beginning was like not
Yeah,
good.
you tripped over it. Like when you got into the like Nvidia thing, it was like, oh, it's all downhill from here.
Yeah. Can I try it one more time, actually?
Yeah.
This is actually pretty fun. Okay. I might even just use it as a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Actually.
This might turn into more of a YouTube thing than a podcast, but you know what? I do think this is fun.
I mean, like, yeah, it's fun, and it also shows like sales leaders don't have the silver bullet,
Yeah,
right away, or maybe it shows that I don't have skill. I don't know, but anyways, okay. The trend that's happening right now is that real-time transactions are increasing enormously across all types of businesses and industries. If you think about the age of like fintech companies now, we expect funds to show up immediately within our e-wallets. When we call an Uber, we expect the car to show up quickly and to know who our driver is within seconds. But the problem is that the underlying database is trying to keep up with these real-time transactions are based off of legacy concepts that were invented in the 80s and 90s. And so if you extrapolate that to performance, a lot of these databases can only do thousands of transactions per second, even if you were to optimize and horizontally scale these databases. And so what TigerBeetle has done, what Joran has done, the founder, is figured out a way to design the database purpose-built for today's hardware principles, where you can actually now design for a world where you can safely transact 1 million transactions per second versus thousands to help your business run 1,000 times faster.
pretty good. Can I try one more? Actually,
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay, I think have a way to say this that's pretty good. So what's happening in the world today is we have all of these new products and services that are basically real time. And to make real-time services work, you need real-time transactions. And take an Uber or real-time solar pricing, things like that. Now, the way that those systems work, they need to do enormously high volumes of transactions, but the databases that people use to do that only can support on the order of a few thousand transactions a second. And so every company that's building these systems needs an entire engineering team designed to scale up those transactions. It's expensive, it's error prone, and it's very challenging. What TigerBeetle has done is they have recognized that due to advances in hardware, since these legacy databases were built that are being used by these companies, there are new ways to architect that transaction processing system that gets you native support for millions instead of thousands of transactions per second, which means new businesses can start from scratch without having to build an enormous hardware and infrastructure footprint in order to achieve the same scale.
Oh, I love that. I love the last part of which means, like the impact statement. I think that's really, really good. Okay. Yeah. I think doing this exercise, I think like the 3 sentences thing doesn't do it justice, is now what I'm realizing,
But you kind of need the like push.
Yes, there's a way the story arc happens that can be a lot more concise.
Yeah. I think it's really 3 bullet points.
It is. There's like here's what's happening, here's the problem, and here's a solution.
And here's why
And here's the impact of getting to that solution faster, right?
Exactly.
Okay, I want to try one more time because you gave me like a lot of inspiration.
Great, go for it.
Okay, so here's what's happening today. Here's a trend. There's a lot more products that are being released where real-time transactions is a foundational component of that product, right? So you think about Ubers, you expect to know your driver pretty much instantly when you're calling your car. When you're doing stock market trades, this batch transaction world where you wait a day to see what's cleared is increasingly becoming unacceptable, especially with e-wallet companies that allow you to transact immediately. And then with things like solar billing, now we're used to seeing things on a 15 to 30 minute increment, whereas in the past, we maybe were getting a monthly bill. The problem with that trend is that the underlying databases can't keep up to the tune of being able to maybe do thousands of transactions per second, whereas the need is for millions of transactions per second. And it's because a lot of these databases were invented when hardware principles were very, very different. If you think about the chip in the 80s and 90s, it's very different from the power of the chip today, right? Things are getting smaller and more performant. And so what TigerBeetle has done is they've reinvented and re-architected the database from the ground up to actually support a world where you could safely transact 1 million transactions per second versus thousands. And the implication of that is that you don't need this heavyweight upfront investment in infrastructure and a huge footprint to be able to keep up with that speed. You can actually start to create a solution that's purpose-built for real-time transactions and launch products faster while still ensuring that your costs don't skyrocket.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I think there's still more tightening, but I think that shape with like 30% less words would be
I have 2 thoughts. One is I don't know if you need all 3 examples in the first section. And 2, I think that it actually would make sense to pull into the problem the existing solutions are bespoke and expensive. Because clearly, like Uber exists. The problem is
you're right.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
And Coinbase and Robinhood.
Yeah. So let me try something.
Okay, cool.
So we live in a world where transactions and interactions are increasingly becoming like real time. Things like calling an Uber and getting a driver instantaneously. Now, there are tons of those transactions. There are like millions of those happening in real time around in some cases. And the problem is the databases of the present by kind of naturally only support thousands of these transactions. So all of these companies that handle real-time transaction processing have to overcome this enormous hurdle of building their own bespoke solutions to this transaction problem. It's expensive. It costs a lot of money, a lot of hardware, a lot of engineers. What TigerBeetle has realized is rather than building unique bespoke solutions, they can go deeper down the stack and re-architect the database to take advantage of modern chip technology that is improved since the original core databases that people are building on were built to shift from a world where the default is thousands to where the default is the ability to process millions of transactions per second. What this means is that all of those existing companies become legacy infrastructure. They either need to upgrade and save a ton of money on their existing infrastructure, or new competitors can use tools like TigerBeetle to undercut their costs and massively outperform them because they can use many fewer engineers and many fewer hardware resources to get the same or better results.
Dude, that is killer. I love this. Can we do like a couple more runs, like for a couple more minutes?
We
Is
got
that
like
okay?
5 minutes. Why not just like...
Okay, cool. Let's just keep. This is hard stuff, you know? Okay, so I'm going to try and condense your feedback and use what you just said. Okay, so here we go. So the need for real-time transactions to really make sure your businesses run fast and you're able to ship products that have revenue implications. Okay, let me start over again. Because what I was trying to do there is see if I could talk about the impact in the beginning too.
Yeah. Oh, I have
You
an
know?
idea for you. Customers and society as a whole is increasingly expecting real-time information,
This is good. Yeah.
and that means real-time transactions. You want to get an Uber? You're not waiting a day. You are waiting seconds for that driver.
Yes, I like that. Okay. Let me try and go down. Oh, sorry. Did you want to continue?
No,
or-
you
Okay.
take
Cool.
it.
So customers across multiple industries are now expecting real-time answers and transactions. So you think about an Uber, you're not waiting minutes even to see who your driver is. You expect that within seconds. If you think about the leading fintech e-wallet companies, you're able to actually now transfer funds pretty immediately. The problem is the underlying databases that are trying to keep up with these real-time transactions, the core databases were invented in an era where the hardware chip was vastly different. And so a lot of these companies have invested a ton of bespoke resources to try and make databases of the 80s and 90s keep up with this pace of real-time transactions. What TigerBeetle, and that costs a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of engineers. Now, what TigerBeetle has done is they've realized this is a huge problem. And so have re-architected the database from the bottom up, from the ground up, I should say.
From the chip up.
From the chip up, and have created a solution where you can now actually safely transact millions of transactions per second. They've created a database that is designed for that world, whereas the databases of the past maybe can at most do thousands of transactions per second. And so the implications of companies leveraging TigerBeetle is that they don't have to have a massive infrastructural footprint to keep up with real-time transactions. And in fact, even compared to incumbent fintech or finance or real-time companies, they can actually move even faster and produce a even more performant experience for their customers who, like I said at the beginning, are increasingly demanding real time.
Yeah.
Something like that, maybe. Right?
I think that's getting in the direction. I have a few quick thoughts. One is the safer thing. Always you say that. And I know that's really important. And like a lot of TigerBeetle stuff is on that. I would either cut it or introduce that early on and say like, and by the way, this bespoke infrastructure, one of the reasons it's so hard is people need to make sure these transactions are correct.
Yes. I like what you said about error prone. I think that's a good way to actually introduce that.
Yeah.
Because that's the other side of safer.
Yeah.
Because with SQL, you can it's a mutable database. It's not an immutable database. Hey, this is awesome, man. This is so fun. I appreciate it, dude.
I really like the just calling all of the existing players who aren't using TigerBeetle like legacy giants who are going to be hunted down.
Yeah. That was really good, actually.
I thought that was really good. I think you should figure out how to work that in.
Oh yeah, I do like that. Like they're going to have to. This is an inevitable shift that they're going to have to address.
Yeah, like their cost structure will just be worse.
Yes.
Okay. More error prone, which means they can't innovate as fast, which means that they have to deal with problems rather than investing in the next wave of technology. I mean, it means they can't innovate as fast fundamentally.
Yeah, and they can't ship products.
And they can't ship.
All these companies have different products that they want to launch.
Yeah.
Right? And most of them have this core ledger that needs to be accurate, right?
Yeah. So. I do think it's also I would maybe just hammer home a little bit more everyone expects this.
Yeah. You're right.
I think you kind of did actually, but
yeah, but there's
I would just hang on to that point. I think.
Sure. Yeah, real time is all around us.
Real time is all around us, and it's only going to get more real time.
It's just that we haven't thought about the under the hood architecture that powers that.
Yeah, right? And it's really hard to do that. TigerBeetle makes it really easy. So we have a bunch of
Totally.
legacy players plus a greenfield for people
Yep.
to develop on that's like new.
Amazing. Well, I know you have a hard stop. This was fun, man. This took an
Yeah,
unexpected turn,
this
but
was a
actually,
real unexpected turn. I like this stuff though. I mean, it was kind of like, how do Alex and Peter grapple with like, describing something? I don't know how interesting it'll be to other people, but it was fun.
I thought it was fun. Yeah, no,
I
you
got
made me
something out of
think.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same,
I got more
same,
excited
same.
about TigerBeetle.
Good. Oh, good. Okay. So I kind of partially did my job, even though it came out as a jumble in the beginning.
Yeah. I also think that like giving a little time to breathe and like writing some I'm almost like, yeah, I bet you could really write like some killer bullet points.
I think so. Yeah. And Joran says this where like he like loves this concept of simmering, like
Yeah.
simmering on a topic.
Yeah.
Right. And like I like that because it like kind of takes the pressure away from like having the golden nuggets like up front, And as you
Exactly.
could see, like I'm kind of like evolving my
Yeah.
perspectives on the product, which that's my excuse for my first pitch being jumbled.
I mean, I threw it at you off the cuff too. So,
No, I love it. I love it.
although I
Cool.
guess you
Thanks,
should be
man.
able to do that at some point.
No,
when
I
you're
should. I
onboarding.
should. I really should. But it's like there's so many like Easter eggs and nuggets in the
Yeah.
technology that sometimes it's like
There's a
hard
lot.
to truly
How do you
condense
distill it
it.
down is like,
Yes,
always
exactly.
really interesting.